Right, good morning ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the meeting of the Cabinet of Staffordshire County Council today, Wednesday the 14th of December 2022. Item number 1 on the agenda, apologies. Mr Bradbury, please.
Good morning, Leader. I have one apology from Councillor Price.
Thank you. Next item is the decision notice of the meeting held on the 16th of November 2022. Is your wish that I sign that off as correct? Yes. Item number 4 is the leader's update. Colleagues, we've got an extensive agenda this morning, and my leader's update reflects the fact that it is an extensive agenda, so if you'll bear with me for 5 minutes, I'll just go through that. Our hearts go out to the families and friends of the 3 young boys, little boys, who tragically died in Solihull on Sunday. It's a devastating reminder of the dangers of playing on frozen lakes, ponds and rivers. And I urge parents and school teachers to teach children not to go near or play on any ice or open water, as the consequences can be so devastating. We have extensive bodies of open water across this county, and that reminder is pertinent to people living here. We're amid our first real cold snap of the winter. Our fantastic county gritting crews have been working tirelessly to keep Staffordshire on the move. There are more than 6,000 kilometres of road in Staffordshire, so keeping our main roads safe and moving in snowy and icy conditions is no mean feat. And it is thanks to our crews and fleet of more than 40 gritters ready to go out around the clock. To Councillor Williams, if you can pass on our thanks to your crews, I'd be extremely grateful. Everyone can do their bit this winter by checking weather forecasts and traffic updates before travelling. Colleagues, all we do at the County Council is underpinned by a pledge to taxpayers to live within our means and deliver value for money. Shortly, Councillor Parry will be discussing our budget and financial plan for 23-24. The plan sets out how we will invest in Staffordshire, investment in our economy, in skills, in our schools, investment in broadband, in roads, and in action on climate change, led by Councillor Tagg. We can do this despite costs and demands rising sharply, because we are a well-run council, a financially stable council. We know that balancing the books will be a big challenge for many families across Staffordshire this winter. Christmas can be expensive at the best of times, and with the rising cost of living, some may turn to illegal moneylenders. Loan sharks prey on the vulnerable. They may seem friendly at first, but soon trap people into a cycle of debt, fear and violence. Visit our Here to Help pages on the Council website for support and advice on where to turn if you need help with money, paying your bills, paying for food, or help with childcare. Don't turn to criminals. Elsewhere, we are teaming up with Staffordshire Samaritans to help those who struggle with their mental health over the festive period. Next Wednesday, on the longest day of the year, we will be lighting council buildings green and encouraging people to put green lights on their windows and messages on social media. It is all to send the message that you are not alone and that there is always somebody to talk to. The incredible volunteers at the Samaritans are available 24 hours a day, including on Christmas Day, by calling 116 123. That's 116 123. One of the best ways to improve your mental and physical health is to enjoy Staffordshire's countryside and green spaces. And as I was driving through Cannock Chase this morning, I've got to say it was absolutely magical. The frost on the trees, the frost on the ground, the winter mist hanging over the forest was absolutely spectacular. But it's important we also protect our natural habitats to halt and reverse the effects of climate change too. That is why the County Council and Simon Tagg are leading on the nature recovery strategy for the county and Stoke-on-Trent. And thank you to Staffordshire Wildlife Trust for hosting a meeting of partners last week to start turning the strategy into action. In more great news, work on the Staffordshire History Centre, a stone's throw away, will start in the new year. And Councillor Wilson has been keeping us abreast of the developments there, and I'm delighted that she's able to bring a report this morning. The Heritage Lottery Fund has topped up their initial grant to us, recognising the impact on inflation and on building costs. This superb £5.4 million project will preserve Staffordshire's rich history and bring our collections together and provide a new heritage attraction in the heart of our county town. And as a result, Councillor Wilson was on the BBC highlighting the excellent work of bringing this thing forward just recently. Stafford, like all of our town centres across the county, is packed full of outstanding independent retailers alongside national brands. With just a week of Christmas shopping left, we continue to urge people to shop local, not just in Stafford, but in all the towns across Staffordshire, and support local businesses and jobs. Colleagues, before moving to the next item on the agenda, I want to take the opportunity in this, our last meeting of the year, to thank you for all you have done for the County Council and Staffordshire over the last 12 months. I also want to say an enormous thank you to our outstanding County Council colleagues who work tirelessly to support people and businesses across the county and to improve our communities. I know many of them will be working over the Christmas period, in particular in those care roles in keeping people safe and well, and Councillor Jessler will be, of course, sending out her thanks to her staff across that portfolio, and to Councillor Sutton, to all our children's services people who work throughout the Christmas period, and to Councillor Williams with our gritters, who even on Christmas Day, if it is needed, will be going out gritting our roads. Thank you for everything you do, and may I wish you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year and a well-earned break over the festive season. And if I might add, just to my Cabinet colleagues, thank you for everything that you do. I know you work extremely hard throughout the year, and I hope you get a chance to have a break. I know that Councillor Wilson's going on a holiday over Christmas, and I hope you have a great time during that holiday. It's well deserved, but thank you all and members of SLT. Right, that is the leader's statement, ladies and gentlemen. First item of the main agenda is agenda item number 5, Staffordshire Means Back to Business, oral update brought to you by the Deputy Leader and the Cabinet Member for Economy and Skills, Councillor White.
Thank you very much, Leader. And in keeping with what's a fairly chunky meeting, this is a fairly chunky update on the economy as well, which I will try and get through at a pace. So Staffordshire faces the same economic challenges as the rest of the country at this time, particularly in terms of the effects of inflation and the effects of industrial action, making it more difficult for people to go about their business. I'm pleased to say that in the news this morning we've seen that inflation appears to at least be flattening out. We may have reached a peak with that, and that's encouraging. And I trust that the industrial action that we are seeing at the moment will be relatively short-lived to help our businesses and workers get on with doing their jobs and making a living. In terms of the employment figures, Staffordshire is following the national trend in that we saw another small increase in claimant rates in Staffordshire over the last month from 2.6 to 2.7% of our population. That's versus a national rate for England of from 3.6 to 3.7%. So we're following that trend, and we can track most of that back to those issues of inflation and other difficulties in terms of businesses getting on with doing their jobs. Within that, we have a particular focus on our young persons claimant rate for people aged 18 to 24, and there we've seen a rise in Staffordshire from 4% to 4.1 versus a national rise from 4.6 to 4.7%. The same factors are a challenge there, but there are additional challenges in terms of those younger people being earlier in their careers, having fewer skills developed because of that lack of time in the workplace, perhaps being the first people that businesses will do without or not hire if they're facing challenges. We're working very hard to try and find ways that we can add some additional help into those areas, but those are the reasons behind it as best we can understand the individual circumstances of each business. In terms of the support that the County Council does provide, as I always say, we do the things that it's relevant for us to do here as a local authority. And one of the things that we are very proud to do is to provide start-up and business growth support for Staffordshire businesses. Historically, as colleagues will know, Staffordshire has seen a lower rate of start-ups than the national average, but we actually have a very good track record in terms of those businesses surviving and growing. So it's been an objective of ours to increase the numbers of startups in Staffordshire. Through our Staffordshire Startup programme now, I'm pleased to say we've had nearly 500 individuals who've been through our programmes aimed at educating people about how to go about starting up your own business. And of those, nearly half have actually started up their own businesses. So a really good success rate in terms of people who are going through our Get Started programme. A new programme that we've rolled out more recently is our Get Started and Grow programme. That's for businesses that are up to 5 years old but are already up and running. We've had around 80 businesses through that so far this year, and they're receiving support in terms of things like marketing, finance, and digital. And that's very much geared towards making sure that we don't just have startups that remain as very small businesses, but those that have got the potential to grow further do, and that we help those businesses with those challenges that you can sometimes see along the way once you are up and running. And I know there are a number of us around the table who either have or currently run businesses, and I think we'll all know the startup's the bit everyone thinks about, but actually those first few years, ironing out the creases in your business and facing those growth challenges are really important. And we're very much committed towards supporting Staffordshire people in setting up those businesses and growing them. And in terms of the success of that, it is starting to bear fruit. So the Office for National Statistics shows that in 2021, the last year for which they have figures published at the moment, there were 1,000 new businesses started in Staffordshire, which is a considerable increase in terms of the rate of startups on what we've seen historically. And you can follow that through in terms of when the activity started in terms of our startup and step-up programs to that uptick beginning. So we're very happy about that, but we will continue to work extremely hard to encourage more businesses to start and grow in Staffordshire, and during these challenging times, particularly to provide help where businesses are finding things challenging in one way or another, where that help can be delivered by this county council. We're continuing to make strides also in terms of delivering higher level skills. This is another one of our objectives for Staffordshire, that we increase the number of our workers who are in higher skilled, higher paid or higher social value occupations. And particularly there, I would focus the success that we've had this year in securing an Institute of Technology, which is going to be here in Stafford, run by the Newcastle and Stafford College Group, in partnership with many of our leading employers. And I'm pleased to say that we've had another major employer join that enterprise, which is St Modwyn Logistics. As we all know, logistics is one of our biggest areas in Staffordshire, and we're very committed to being at the leading edge in terms of developing modern logistics practices here in Staffordshire, developing some intellectual capital and highly skilled workers in that area. We will see that Institute of Technology open in 2024, and it's great as an example of partnership between the public sector, education providers and the private sector. Looking forwards a little bit, there are several other key projects that I would highlight that we're hoping will come to fruition and make great strides during 2024. Our Hydrogen Technologies Valley proposal remains one of the biggest opportunities in the entire country for transformational intellectual property-led growth. The Hydrogen Technologies Valley, as we know, is the A50, A500 corridor, has some of the leading manufacturers making products using hydrogen in the country. It was our investment zone proposal to government. That programme has been discontinued, but we are continuing to talk to government about that as a nationally significant programme that we believe they will want to pick up and invest in outside of that discontinued investment zone programme. At one end of that corridor in Newcastle under Lyme, I'm very pleased to say that the main earthworks have now started. Must be hard going in -6 conditions doing earthworks, but the main earthworks have started on the Chatterley Valley West site, which is a development that is expected to come on stream, be available for businesses to occupy in mid-2023. The site will ultimately have over 1 million square feet of development space, and we expect it will generate in the region of 1,700 new jobs here in Staffordshire. It's another great example of the public sector and the private sector working together. The funding for the site has come through the Kidsgrove Town deal, Staffordshire County Council, and also from the private sector. So a really good example of everybody doing their part to create good jobs here in Staffordshire. And we're doing more in terms of the longer term and attracting those jobs into Staffordshire. I'm pleased to say that our Chief Executive was one of the participants in a major conference down in London recently with the fascinating title of Tomorrow's Shed and Logistics Conference. The Chief Executive coughed at that moment to drown out the name of it. But this is a conference with all the major players in that sector coming together to talk around developments in skills and innovation in particular within logistics. And we again, it's a national conference, we again in Staffordshire playing a key part in that, driving that discussion forwards. We discussed the West Midlands interchange at our last Cabinet meeting, but I would highlight that here again as another example of how we are at the beating heart of innovation in this sector with a scheme there that will generate 8 million square feet of logistics space and over 8,500 new jobs. Finally, in another one of our major sectors, I would highlight the work that we've been doing in the tourism sector through our visitor economy plan, which was recently approved by the Staffordshire Leaders Board. That is a key programme to support an area of our economy which generates almost £2 billion in revenues for Staffordshire businesses and employs over 30,000 people in our county. And that plan is designed to cement our strength in that area, but to grow it and particularly to focus on challenges in terms of skills, recruitment and the development of our local economy accommodation offer. And linked to that, we have a fantastic marketing campaign that you've hopefully all seen around the Christmas period, highlighting the great attractions we have in Staffordshire and our fantastic independent businesses. There's still a good few shopping days left before Christmas, and I encourage everybody to get out onto their local high street and shop locally when they're looking for those presents that no doubt we all still need to buy. I certainly know I do. So with that, I will close, and my final words are just to say thank you to all of the workers in our businesses here in Staffordshire. They do a wonderful job. It's very much appreciated, and I hope they all enjoy their Christmas breaks. Thank you, Leader.
Thank you. Are there any questions for the Deputy Leader? Councillor DeVille.
Just a short point, please, Leader. Thank you, Philip, for that report. Much of it is of direct interest to me and people in our area in the Moorlands. Of course, the A50 and the A500 corridor project, that's going to provide not only a tremendous number of jobs, but really good, well-paid jobs and apprenticeships and training opportunities for young people in the north of the county and the county as a whole, and indeed from outside the county. So that's a real positive. However, I think the most positive around your presentation was the 1,000 new startups in 2021. And what a tough time it's been, you know, over the past 3 years to start up a small business. So I think the initiative Get Started and Grow is a fantastic initiative. And that will, you're right, Deputy Leader, that will give small businesses who started up maybe 3 years ago that boost into the growth period. And that's difficult now. To get into a growth period is difficult now. And that initiative will certainly boost that. And finally, Leader, if I may, I've said many, many times that small businesses are the heartbeat of the county. The larger businesses in our area, you'll know, colleagues, that JCB opened up the new cab plant recently in Uttoxeter, providing hundreds of jobs to the local area. Alton Towers, I met with Alton Towers a couple of weeks back, and they have really exciting plans for development of their facility for next summer. So really positive, and there's a tremendous amount of positivity around the county at the moment. And gosh, don't we need that positivity at the moment, colleagues? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor DeVille. Despite you imploring us to get out there and make the best use of the last few shopping days to Christmas, I traditionally leave it to the last day. I find that panic that starts to be evoked within you as you get towards the closure of the shops on Christmas Eve really focuses the mind, and sometimes you can't beat the petrol station on the way home if push comes to shove. So there are plenty of alternatives for shopping on the run-up to Christmas. don't forget our service stations across the county. They are the provider of last resort, and I think we ought to remember the great service they deliver for all of us. Thank you, Councillor White. Very good. And now we're going to move on to agenda item number 6, which is the medium-term financial strategy. This is a joint report brought to you by myself and Councillor Parry, the Cabinet Member for Finance and Resources. I think I want to cut straight to the chase, Councillor Parry, if I may, and if you could give us the details of the report, and then we'll ask for questions once you've completed. Thank you.
The service by assuming that we're all going to be down in the SO garage on Christmas Eve. This is both a kind of progress report, if you like, or a status report, given what's happened since our current MTFS was refreshed and set and agreed by Council back in February, and what's happened since. And what's happened since, of course, is the aftermath of COVID and the emergence of a tyrant, which has caused the economy to experience certain pressures in terms of inflation, cost of energy, etc. And that's had a significant impact on our budget. Particularly inflation. We've had to use an inflation reserve to support those areas of investment and expenditure within the Council's medium-term financial strategy. And then this is also a work in progress because it isn't finished. There are some gaps, and the gaps are what comes out of both the autumn statement and next week in terms of the financial settlement. This has all been announced in the autumn statement in terms of the headlines, if you like, and what we do know is the Chancellor's permitted us to, if we choose to increase our council tax by 4.99%, which would be a 2% increase in our current plan. And there is an expectation across the local government sector that most councils, in fact about 90% or more of councils, are likely to do that. We won't be making any decisions on that finally until we know what the financial settlement is next week. As I say, some of those have been pre-announced early this week, and I know the leader was on a call yesterday talking about some of those things, but until we see the detail, we can't actually embed that in our future plan here. What we do know is there are some additional pressures such as inflation, and although inflation marginally came down this morning, or this morning's announcement, we still have to factor in roughly £25 million for inflation next year, and we'd hope that it starts to come down after that. I think the Treasury, the OBR and others are assuming that inflation will start to come down to single digits in the new year, and by the end of next year come down to roughly target. Let's see. Our plan, therefore, is we have additional pressures on top of that. We have inflation, as I've mentioned, and therefore this year we will have a balanced budget. We plan to have a balance next year if we use around £25 million of reserves to make sure that the 23-24 period balances. But beyond that, and that buys us some time, beyond that we will instigate a savings programme within the council and an innovation programme to maintain, to fill the gaps that we've got in subsequent years in our MTFS. That's inevitable. So therefore, Chair, Leader, the best we can do in a sense now is to wait until we get the financial settlement to see what that says, to see what additional income that may be derived from that for social care and other areas of the council before we can knit our budget together. So I'm being brief. We therefore have some recommendations to ask of Cabinet this morning, but willing to answer questions before then.
Thank you, Councillor Parry. You reminded us very helpfully that this is in anticipation of the settlement which will come out either Monday or Tuesday of next week. There has been a huge amount of work, as always, that goes into this MTFS, and I'm grateful to all the departments across the County Council for their contribution to this. The key thing for us is to make sure that, as far as financial management is concerned, we do, for want of a better phrase, we do the boring stuff well, which is make sure we spend wisely. We make sure that we only spend on those things which we know are going to have an effect for the people at the front line who need our services. And so I'm very grateful indeed to all the work that goes on, and also the work of Rob Salmon and his team that spend huge amounts of time and effort to get us to this point where we can get a balanced budget into place. You were right to point out the fact that the 4.99% is a number that has been offered without having to go to a referendum, and you're indeed accurate to say that a good proportion of the councils are looking at that number and thinking that that's probably where they're going to be going. But we haven't come to that conclusion yet here. So that's my sort of takeaway from your statement, Councillor Parry. Councillor Jessel, you wanted to come in.
Yes, thank you very much, Chairman. I mean, I appreciate this is an interim report, really, until we know the final figures. And, of course, as always, the devil's in the detail as to what you can use funding for. I mean, I understand there is likely to be a quite reasonable settlement, particularly with social services. But apart from inflation, higher interest rates, we've got an ever-increasing demand in that particular area of work because of the demographics of the population. And whilst we are planning and redesigning services to help people be more independent for longer, that is a tanker that keeps going along, that demand is going to increase. As you say, quite rightly, Leader, we do the boring well. And can I say that this report and the performance financially, particularly in social services, is down to a lot of hard work by the staff. And like the NHS, we have an ever-increasing demand. We don't have to look for business. Business just keeps turning up. But unlike the NHS, we manage within our budgetary constraints. And I think that is something that actually needs to be learned in other areas as well. And I think it is that doing the boring well.
Thank you, Councillor Jessel. Councillor Sutton.
Just wanted to make some sort of general comments, particularly around the areas this their impact on the children and families portfolio. And first of all, I'd like to thank Councillor Parry for the report. So as next year progresses, we will continue to embed the Children, Young People and Families Transformation Programme, and together with providing early help to families that need it, together with our partners, together with how we start to develop family hubs going first, providing the right help at the right place at the right time. So I look forward to being able to develop that as we go forward. I'd just like to take this opportunity, though, to thank the staff across the children's and families portfolio, particularly those that will be working over the Christmas period, providing the emergency service, emergency stuff that our social workers have to do 24/7 every single day of the week, and particularly that those staff during that COVID period were still out visiting vulnerable families. And just before I finish, perhaps also that thank to our many foster carers who look after many of our children who are in care, and obviously they're doing that all over the Christmas period as well as the rest of the year, and those staff that work in ours and the private sector, about residential homes that are doing exactly the same. Thank you very much, Leader.
Councillor DeVille.
Yeah, thank you, Leader. I'd like to take the opportunity of thanking the staff in the corporate world, in the commercial world, Leader. I'm bringing 2 reports later that will enlighten all of you, I know. You know, the staff are all over these frameworks, these contracts, week in, week out, constantly ensuring that we get very, very best value. And I think the presentation of Councillor Parry's agenda item today absolutely emphasises the need that we've got to sharpen our pencils up. And, you know, I assure all of colleagues and all of the Staffordshire taxpayers that we're all over the amount of expenditure that we make through this county council. Also, Leader, we're undergoing a major transformation project within highways that myself and Councillor Williams are working on. Working in different ways, working more efficiently, saving money, but most importantly, Chairman, with a total focus on customer care and delivery for the customer. So I think that's really important as well in the big picture of the future finances and the future challenges that we face moving forward.
Thank you, Leader. I'll be brief because Councillor DeVille has stolen a bit of my thunder there. I just wanted to highlight the continued priority that we're making for investment in our highways, whilst reforming the way that we conduct those activities to make them as efficient as possible. But this morning, when I was heading in at 6:30, I drove past just at the bottom of my road some of our highways workers who are delivering a road reconstruction scheme in my area out 6:30 in the morning, already setting up. The temperature is not going to go above 0 today, and they will be out all day, hard at work on that for the people of Staffordshire, as they do all around the county. I think they deserve our particular thanks today, and our continued investment in that area is most welcome.
Councillor Parry, if you could sum up and give us the recommendations, please.
Thank you. And I'm really grateful to colleagues who've highlighted not just the external pressures, economic pressures on the council's finances, but also the internal pressures and the way that we are carefully managing our budgets, particularly adult social care, which is, you know, I guess been the most difficult area to manage in the past, but is now happily a budget that's under control. But it also means that we need to prepare ourselves for changes in social care in the future, and that will mean that we will perhaps need to restructure some things to allow us to do that, not just in terms of increasing income, and also in children's services where we've managed to do the transformation, but the embedding part of it is the challenging aspect of that as well in terms of the financial implications. So really grateful for those highlighting points. And finally then, Leader, you and I need to recommend to Cabinet this morning, I'll read them out, a number of recommendations that we recommend to the Cabinet. A, consider the updates to the financial plans as set out in the report, including the potential use of reserves to balance the 23-24 budget and potential cost reduction plans for future years. B, note the announcements made by the Chancellor as part of his autumn statement. C, endorse the commitment to continue to deliver the cost reduction programme as set out in Appendices 2A and 2D, and endorse the commencement of the innovation programme with immediate effect to identify cost reductions from 2024-25 onwards. D, note the risks associated with these planned cost reductions as set out in this report, and ask that senior leadership team undertake the appropriate engagement arrangements required to deliver these cost reductions. E, receive a further report in January to recommend a revenue budget, medium-term financial strategy and council tax to full council in February. And finally, F, ask the Corporate Review Committee to scrutinise the proposed pressures and cost reduction options against the principles of good and balanced budget. It did go to the working group yesterday, in fact. Thank you. I move.
You've heard the recommendations, ladies and gentlemen. All those in favour?
Agreed.
That is unanimous. Thank you, Councillor Parry. Moving on to agenda item number 7, adult learning disability provider services. And what a great segue from the previous item, just highlighting the continual work to improve the service offering. And Councillor Jessel, you're going to take us through it.
Yes, thank you very much, Leader. And as you quite rightly say, this is work that's been ongoing for the past few years to modernise the services, both the way we operate them, staff arrangements, introducing digital. But this report is an update report on what we're doing in terms of that built environment. Our aim is always to work with the users, their families and carers to ensure that we deliver a quality service in premises in an environment that is suitable to those needs. And of course, within that, we do have to ensure that we operate within the rules set out by the CQC, which are sometimes a little restrictive, but we have to operate within them. So this report, as I say, gives an update on where we are with various premises that we're upgrading and modernising. There's Douglas Road in Newcastle, and I think one of the key things is to ensure that, as I say, CQC regulations, that infection control, which became a key issue during the COVID outbreak, are addressed. So it's been decided to retain and refurbish those premises, but not to use the Wilmot Drive, which are literally just 5 minutes walk away. It's also been agreed to retain Greenfield House in Leek and also to retain and refurbish those premises. Hawthorne House has been the subject of a previous report, and that will be remodelled. There has been some slight changes to the numbers of residents there, and because of the cost pressures that have been mentioned in Councillor Parry's report, that project has been re-looked at and actually almost turned on its head. Instead of retaining what was known as the lower house, we're now retaining the upper house, because actually that is a far more economic building to refurbish, and it will still release part of the site to be sold for future development. This report, all the capital investment has already been approved on the 19th of October of this year, and is being funded from the Contain Outbreak Management Fund. So, as I say, all the costs, and because of how we now propose to do Hawthorne House, that will still be within budget, which I think is very important. I think in terms of the future, and I've always been very keen on looking to the long-term future, because capital projects take quite a long time to actually come to fruition, that in looking at the premises, I think the local authority needs to take a longer-term view and take the opportunity to say what services, building-based services, do we need, not only for adults, but children's services within the county. And I think there is an opportunity for us to do that. So it is a fairly brief update report. I'm happy to answer any questions, Leader, before I read out recommendations.
There is nobody indicating, Councillor Jessel, so you're going straight to the recommendations, please.
The recommendations, I recommend that Cabinet A retains the Douglas Road Residential Replacement Care Service and at its current location in Newcastle under Lyme, and delegates authority to the Director of Health and Care for approval and procurement of refurbishment and redevelopment works subject to a business case. B, endorse the continued provision of residential care service at Greenfields House in Leek with refurbishment of the premises. C, assesses the need for building-based care facilities for adults and children county-wide and considers opportunities to use the Council's land and property portfolio for developments to meet these needs. D, note the progress and revised plan to refurbish Hawthorne House, which is in Lichfield, for residential care in Lichfield. E, note the progress regarding the ongoing development of specialist day opportunity services and their buildings. I so move.
You've heard the recommendations, ladies and gentlemen. All those in favour?
Agreed.
Agreed. That is unanimous. Moving forward then to agenda item number 8, which is Homes for Ukraine, brought to you by the Cabinet Member for Communities and Culture, Councillor Wilson.
Thank you, Leader, and good morning to everybody. So this morning I seek to inform Cabinet members of progress to date of the Homes for Ukraine scheme. The duty of this council has been to ensure that we've checked the standards under which Ukrainians have been accommodated here and are safe, and we're also providing guidance for our sponsors to make sure that they are able to effectively look after those who are guests in their homes. Checks have been made to ensure that there are no safeguarding concerns for care and support. And as you can see in the report, there are 424 unique sponsors in the county and a total of 723 guests at last count. There have been some relationship breakdowns, and that's obviously to be expected, and there's been a lot of work done by the team and by the various districts and borough councils to help to rematch and reaccommodate Ukrainian families where necessary. In the face of real challenge, the team at Staffordshire County Council has worked incredibly hard to keep our guests in Staffordshire safe, and I also applaud members of the community for all they've done to help, and we are indeed a welcoming county. In terms of the proposed approach for the development of a resettlement team, we've committed to see that people are supported by their sponsor and the community so they can settle here safely going forward. And we're focusing on 4 key elements: providing health support, providing access to housing and employment, education, English classes where necessary, and also access to a personalised budget. And we will continue to work with our partners, the districts and borough councils, in ensuring that they are reimbursed for their assistance in this area. In order to achieve our goal, we have up until now had to divert officers away from business as usual activity across the county council. So we are now recommending that a team is built for a fixed period of 2 years to ensure sustained support for those from Ukraine and resettlement more longer term. The details are in report under 4, 10, 11 and 12. So moving on to the spend as per the recommendation, as you see, there will be a personalised budget for guests of up to £500. In terms of health support, we're recommending an allocation, particularly in terms of mental health support, because we've seen that some guests who have arrived here have experienced significant trauma due to the effects of war, and our hearts and thoughts are with them. We want to offer financial support also via a small grant scheme to increase things like events and activities and services to help people feel independent and resilient here in Staffordshire County Council. The Department for Education is providing additional funding to create education services for children, and this will be on a pupil-by-pupil basis, the details of which can be found further down the report 4.17.3. As you already know, we have been providing £10,500 for each Ukraine national for the first year of the scheme, but it can be spread for 3 years in line with visa applications. There's also a welcome payment to each guest as they arrive into the county of £200, which is deducted from the total allocation. Sponsors continue to receive £350 per month as a thank you via the districts and boroughs. And you will note that within the table in the report detailing for each element of the scheme, that's all broken down in there. And before I go to the recommendations, I just want to put on record my thanks and the thanks of this council to all of the community and the sponsors around Staffordshire who have welcomed those people fleeing Ukraine with open arms and have made them so welcome. And I really, truly hope that going forwards, this will continue. So if there are no questions, I'll read the recommendations, Leader.
Thank you, Councillor Wilson. Thank you to your team for all the hard work that they've done. I know that Natasha Moody in particular has worked tremendously hard and has been working very, very long hours it seems to be permanently available, actually. No matter what day of the week it is, she'll respond to challenges and problems in a constructive fashion with a level-headed approach, which is a real tribute to her and to the council and to the team that she manages. So thank you very much indeed to Natasha. I would also like to pay tribute to the districts and boroughs across the county. They, as the housing authorities, have had a particular set of challenges over the past 6 months, in fact longer than that, as Councillor Tagwell knows, the leader of Newcastle-under-Lyme Borough Council, dealing with the Afghan refugee situation last year, the need to house migrants across districts and boroughs, which is affecting all districts and boroughs across the county, and then layered into that also looking after our guests from Ukraine and the difficulties that they face. So there's multiple challenges on multiple fronts, which rely on the input not just of Staffordshire County Council, but all our partners, as you alluded to very articulately, Councillor Wilson, in your speech relating to this report. There is nobody else indicating, Councillor Wilson, so if you'd like to give us the recommendations, we shall listen to what you've got to say and then vote.
Thank you. I recommend that Cabinet acknowledge the progress to date in relation to the Homes for Ukraine scheme, endorse the proposed approach for the development of a resettlement team to support the Homes for Ukraine scheme and broader resettlement programme, approve the financial breakdown and agree spend in line with these proposals based on the actual costs, as these figures are still subject to change as more people arrive, and thank the sponsors once again for the compassion and generosity that you've shown in offering to sponsor a family fleeing the conflict in Ukraine and welcoming them to Staffordshire. I so move.
You've heard the recommendations. All those in favour?
Agreed.
That is unanimous. Moving forward then to agenda item number 9, which is the review of older people's nursing home capacity and demand. And just to highlight yet again the constantly evolving nature of the health and care portfolio, Councillor Jessel, we're with you.
Thank you very much, Leader. I thought you were going to make comment to the fact that I deferred making decision on these. Originally, it was planned for 2 additional nursing homes because I felt it was important to do a detailed analysis of what the current provision is, what future demand is throughout the county, because as you can see from the report, it has highlighted that there are areas such as Tamworth and Newcastle, followed closely by Stafford and Staffordshire Moorlands, where the provision, where one is looking to the future, will fall short of what is required. So I think now we have this detailed information on which we can build plans for the future. Nursing home capacity is needed. There are challenges within the market, particularly with securing and retaining qualified nursing staff. And within the county, there are 76 nursing homes, and a certain number of those we are continuing to support to ensure the quality of care that they provide is maintained. But there are specific challenges, particularly for the smaller homes, who are finding it more and more difficult to retain staff and actually retain their financial viability. I think there is national research to say that 45 beds is about the smallest capacity that is required to be financially viable. And we have a number of homes. We have 25 homes that have significantly fewer beds than that. The report, as I say, aims to, so that we can achieve good quality, accessible and affordable placements. The report does identify that there are new nursing homes being built, but the cost of the placements is about double what this authority can provide. And if no new nursing homes are provided, we will need a greater proportion of that that's available, and at those prices, it is unaffordable. So, as a consequence, it's been identified that there's an opportunity both at Bracken House in Burntwood, Meadowrith in Tamworth, to, subject to business case, develop those not only to be a residential care home, but also nursing home provision as well, with an opportunity to potentially expand Meadowrith. In terms of new nursing homes, I think we would need to consider all options as to how those can be delivered. I'm not necessarily in favour of the local authority building them. They are extremely expensive services to construct, but I think in partnership with other operators, other providers, there are those opportunities. And as with a previous report, there may well be sites or buildings that we already own where actually we can operate in a partnership approach. So the report sets out some clear recommendations. As I say, the one to immediately increase our capacity is to develop Meadowrith and Bracken House that are currently run by Nexus Services. Obviously, there will need to be registrations, recruitment and development of the service to provide that new service. But also it identifies that there are areas in the county where we would need to consider working in partnership with other organisations to bring forward business cases to develop that future capacity. As I say, there are real challenges within the market. It is within our 4-year strategy to improve the overall CQC rating of nursing homes in Staffordshire. We are below the national average, and I very much take the view we are not in total control because they are often run by other organisations, but I don't think currently that's good enough for the people of Staffordshire, and we're working hard to work with those homes to encourage them and help facilitate improvements in the quality of care that they provide, because that to me is of paramount importance. So I'm happy to answer any questions before I move recommendations, Leader.
Councillor DeVille.
Thank you very much, Leader. And thank you, Mrs Jessel, for that detailed and really positive report. Thank you. In relation to Nexus, Leader, I will declare my interest as a non-executive director. I won't comment on this excellent report, Councillor Jessel, but thank you for presenting it, and I'll withdraw from the meeting, Leader, at the time of the vote, if I may.
Thank you for reminding us of that, Councillor DeVille. Councillor Tagg.
Thank you, Chair. Welcome this report. And I think obviously the point 7 about the relatively fewer total care beds than across England, and then I note the fact that the districts with one of the lowest is Newcastle, and I note in the report that it says we are looking for request potential sites for nursing homes to be identified, a business case is being brought forward, and of course I note that you say, portfolio holder, about that being council-owned land. So I'd like to ask, does the portfolio think that the property team at the council are actually on message with this? Because I could name a site within Newcastle which is going to have an inappropriate overdevelopment plonked right in the middle of an estate, which is the Seabridge Centre site, which again, I've been for many years putting forward the case that there should be a use such as for care. And is that option still available for that site? I know a cabinet decision has been made, and I did speak and withdrew from the meeting because of an interest relating to Newcastle Borough Council. I was against that, and that there can be a better use. And so my question is, you put forward the vision here of using council-owned sites to be able to increase the care beds necessary, and particularly for people in the district of Newcastle that will want to, and their family want them to remain in the borough while they're in care for visiting and ease of travel. Can you confirm that you think that this has actually been taken on board by the property team?
I can't answer the specific case about the Seabridge site. I think a decision has been made on that, so I will defer to others on that one. I think it is something now that we can certainly drive forward. I think there are other opportunities as well. In terms of districts and boroughs, they consult with the county council in terms of highways, but they don't necessarily consult with us in terms of if an application comes for a care home, for us to make comments as to whether we believe that it should be a nursing home or a general care home. And I think, I call it health in all policies. I think there's a real opportunity for us as a county council to work through our districts and boroughs to have a little bit more influence on perhaps some of the outcomes of consultation with planning applications. I think with this kind of report, with the data that we have, it would be beneficial to have influence. And I refer actually to a future report that's coming later on in the agenda, where actually that closer working, I think, could bear the kind of fruits to provide care homes, but care homes with a nursing care element, and to be able to influence those planning decisions. As I say, I think there's real opportunities, as we've said, and the leader has said in the past. We are in an era where the cooperation between districts, boroughs and county is better than it's ever been. And I think we are aligned to actually trying to ensure that with our policies and our decisions, we actually deliver the kinds of services in the areas where they're needed for the population. Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you very much indeed, Councillor Jessel. Again, this is I did the portfolio for some time, about 7 years, I think. And this development, this evolution, if I might put it that way, of the provision of care across the county and nursing care across the county is something that is very welcome. When circumstances change, we change, and circumstances have changed, and this is the outcome of that. But I think it's welcome to see more provision in the way that you've set out in this report. So if you could give us the recommendations, Councillor Jessel, I'd be grateful.
Certainly, thank you. I recommend that Cabinet A note the current challenges and ongoing support to the nursing home market. B, note the residual concerns about the sustainability of the nursing home market. C, approve in principle the development of Brackenhouse in Burntwood and Meadowrith in Tamworth into nursing homes subject to a business case, and delegate the decision on this development to the Cabinet Member for Health and Care in consultation with the Director of Health and Care and the County Treasurer. D, request that potential sites for new nursing homes be identified and business cases for development, including options for development and delivery, brought to a future Cabinet meeting. I so move.
Thank you, Councillor Jessel. If I could just propose one amendment, please. The role of County Treasurer no longer exists. That is now the Director of Finance. Congratulations, Mr. Salmon, our new Director of Finance. So if I can propose that amendment, please. Are you happy with that?
Yes, I am, Leader. Yes,
thank you. With that amendment, you've heard the recommendations. All those in favour?
Agreed.
It is unanimous. If we can get Councillor DeVille back in. Great to have you back, Mark, because the next report after this one, it starts to get quite exciting. So if we could just hold off on that, because before that we've got agenda item number 10, which is delivering a future vision for the countryside estates. And if we could just pay tribute to Councillor Wilson before she starts on this report. You have over the past couple of years been evolving the way we manage our country parks, and you've undertaken some quite challenging changes which have been difficult to get through, but we can see that evolution in progress now, and this is a manifestation of the next stage. So over to you, Councillor Wilson.
Thank you very much for those kind words. I cannot take responsibility for this. This is down to a wonderful team that we have here at Staffordshire County Council. So the County Council, obviously, as you know, owns and manages a large countryside estate comprising of our country parks, our local beautiful green spaces and our 3 greenways. And for some years we've been exploring ways to make the estate more financially sustainable. And in 2019, Cabinet agreed a suite of measures, including exploring alternative management arrangements. However, following the pandemic and the huge increase in use and interest in our green spaces, and with a growing focus on environmental issues such as climate change with Councillor Tagg and nature recovery, a new vision has been developed for our countryside estate. And this exciting report outlines plans for an in-house delivery model to take this new vision forward, and outlines the benefits that it will deliver. So our new vision for the countryside estate, as set out at point 4 in the report, is to provide accessible and inclusive natural green space for communities and visitors, actively supporting health and well-being, to showcase the Council's work to tackle climate change, to support nature recovery and to celebrate our heritage with the needs of conservation and recreation carefully balanced, to provide opportunities for learning and enjoyment, to provide business opportunities that enhance the visitor experience and contribute to sustainable site management, and to be managed by the County Council with greater community input and support and involvement through volunteering. The report sets out how we're going to achieve this, presented against the Council's strategic objectives. And as you'll see, further detail is provided in the delivery plan in Appendix 1, which includes indicative timescales and performance indicators. There's a lot of information here, so I've had to just draw some things out that I'd want to highlight as our key priorities. So paragraphs 7 to 10 set out the opportunities for our countryside estate to really contribute to this council and this county's economic prosperity. There's a real aspiration, particularly at the larger sites, to enhance the visitor experience, offering opportunities to businesses to operate in ways that support the sustainable management of our sites. And we really particularly want to improve the facilities at Cannock Chase and Chasewater, though this will require some investment. Our sites could also provide great places for learning and skills for children at a key time for the environment sector. We're well aware that this is a time of real unprecedented challenges for our environment, and I refer members to paragraphs 11 to 14 of the report. In the UK, many species are sadly declining, and 15% of them are threatened with extinction, even now. Our countryside estate includes some of Staffordshire's most important sites for nature. Around 60% is designated as SSSI, so there is a real contribution that we can make towards nature recovery and to tackling the climate crisis. An ambition in the new vision is to use our estate as a flagship for this work, to make our operations more sustainable and to promote to our visitors the changes that they can also help to make in their daily lives to make Staffordshire even more sustainable. There's a real abundance of evidence of the benefits of spending time in natural green space to our physical and mental health. In fact, it's estimated that the NHS could save £2.1 billion every year in treatment costs if everyone in England had access to good quality green space. Paragraphs 15 and 16 of the report set out the work that we propose, including a Healthy Parks programme and work to tackle some of those barriers to access. Our communities will be vital to making this work, and we want people to be more engaged and involved, and we aim to expand our current volunteering offer and also create a supporter scheme. Resources are of course essential to delivery. There are no MTFS commitments linked to these proposals. A significant MTFS saving has already been delivered through the restructure of the entire environment and countryside service. Resources to support delivery will include external funding bids, environment grants, just like our countryside stewardship schemes, income generated through the use of our buildings, our leases and our licences. And there may be some need for Staffordshire County Council investment in some of the facilities, and business cases will be brought forward on this in due course. We're also already recovering some costs through car parking charges, and we're currently successfully have some of these in place at Chasewater already and in Cannock Chase, and these are set to be rolled out further on the Chase and the north of the county. However, we are really mindful of the cost of living pressures that people are currently facing, and we've identified a range of mitigations to address this, including freezing current charges until April 2024, delaying introduction of charges until into next year, and phasing in with a voluntary charge. All money generated through car parking charges will be invested back into the sites, and it's really, really essential to the delivery of this vision. The charges at Chasewater have already enabled us to invest in new children's play areas, new trails and new facilities, and I have to say it's looking very, very good. The proposals have been discussed twice now by Prosperous Staffordshire Overview and Scrutiny Committee, which was very supportive and in particular wanted to ensure the delivery of environmental benefits to tackle climate change and nature recovery. So just to summarise, our key delivery priorities over the next 2 years are nature recovery work and woodland creation to support net carbon zero, greening our service, so introducing electric and HVO vehicles, charging points where we can, and promoting wider behaviour change, a healthy parks programme and improved accessibility, developing our volunteer offer, which is obviously very close to my heart, an enhanced business and catering offer at our main country parks, extension of pay and display to the north of the county, and a parks promotion plan with improved online preserve and on-site visitor welcome and orientation. So just to sum up then, our significant countryside estate of over 5,000 acres of green space already provides a fantastic resource for our communities and environment. And by retaining direct management and with careful investment, we can increase the benefits to our communities and ensure our countryside estate really supports our green economy, our health and well-being, and forms the backbone for our work to restore our natural environment. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Wilson. What an excellent report. I've got 4 people who want to speak. Councillor Sutton, Councillor White, Councillor Tagg and Councillor DeVille. Councillor Sutton.
Yeah, and can I just echo your comments, Leader? Absolutely excellent, excellent report. I wanted to talk a little bit about something that Councillor Wilson hinted at but didn't go into much detail, and that's paragraphs 23 to 25 around Best Start. And I'm really, really pleased to see that we've been able to include that in there. I for one, certainly benefit from getting out there and the great outdoors, going for walks, etc. And I know the portfolio holder does as well. Having done and walked the Staffordshire Way herself during last year. But the access and proximity to green spaces for our very youngest residents, I think, is really important in and around their well-being going forward. And it's great to see that the priorities we've set for that in relation to early years are a programme of activities developed with family support teams, supporting and expanding outdoor learning and forest schools, and to support the wider family activities. Yeah, I just think that's fantastic that we've been able to link this with the development of young children so that they get a best start in life. And this no doubt helps everybody there, carers, their parents, as well as themselves with their mental well-being going forward.
Thank you very much, Leader. And I've got to echo those comments as well in terms of the quality of this report. You were very modest at the beginning of your introduction, I think, because it's a great quality report and one that you presented with real grip. And this is important business for Staffordshire. We're over 80% rural as a county, and a huge proportion of our economic activity also goes on in these rural areas, which speaks to the close alignment between this work and the work that happens within my economic development portfolio around our rural economic strategy, which this very strongly supports. And I'd highlight within that the importance of developing our offer, both for our own residents and people who are visiting our county. And I'm very interested in particular to see those proposals coming forward for Chasewater. we have wonderful country parks spread around our county, but Chasewater is a good example of a great amenity, not only for local people in Staffordshire, but also people in the West Midlands conurbation who want to get out of the city and enjoy the natural environment, but have some things to do as well. And Chasewater, as we know, is a wonderful centre for water sports, but it's a lovely country park as well. And this work just fits with our agenda in terms of careful stewardship of these assets, but also making sure that they are well used and really benefit both our residents and people from further afield. So more strength to your arm. Well done to the team as well. And looking forward to seeing this one develop. Thank you.
Thank you, Leader. I know how the team that cover this are dedicated to these country parks. I remember when I was chair of scrutiny a few years ago, Prospect Select Committee had a couple of days going round to the sites and saw the staff and their dedication to the sites. I think yourself, Victoria, you need to take credit for the work you've done over the last few years, particularly on the difficult decisions you made over Cannock Chase, which didn't go down well in the community, but were aimed to protect that outstanding area of natural beauty for future generations. I think our country parks and country estates have never been under threat from this administration since we've come, and even though there have been various political campaigns over the years and various reports that have come through the council, but I think since the emergence of the climate change agenda and the climate emergency, they are the key asset to help us to fight climate change, and that nature recovery strategy, which we've got to implement across the county, will rely on our country parks and our country estates to help us to achieve that. And that nature recovery declaration we made will be focused on bringing back nature through those sites, and also using our sites for carbon offset, and also as a natural flood management tool as they're in place to soak up rainfall and protect areas of residencies around them as well. So and forming a network across the county, as you said, to bring nature back and to help nature to take root and then spread and move between those corridors as well. So I think, whether it's Apedale Country Park in the north or whether it's Chasewater and Cannock Chase and others across the county, they are key to our climate change agenda, and key also for all the other benefits, whether that's health, whether that's recreation and all sorts of things. They are there to stay, as they always have been, central to this county and what make this county what it actually is, and a central part of our plans going forward. Thank you.
Yeah, very well said, Councillor Tagg. And I've got in front of me right now your Nature Recovery Declaration that you made on Thursday, the 10th of February 2022. And the way the Nature Recovery Declaration interweaves with this report that Councillor Wilson has brought forward this morning is a highlight of how connected the organisation is, making sure that we're delivering our strategies, not just when you say you're going to do something like the Nature Recovery Declaration. Councillor Wilson actually delivers it through the country park strategy, which is excellent. Finally, Councillor DeVille.
Yeah, thank you, Leader. Councillor Tagg, you're precisely right. Our beautiful country parks have never been at threat from this council. What's not to like about this report? It's fantastic. Thank you, Councillor Wilson, and thank you also for the amazing enthusiasm of our staff at these venues, of our volunteers. There's nothing not to like about this. It ticks all of the boxes. Leader, I was fortunate indeed yesterday to visit Ladridge Country Park, right up in the snowbound north of the county. Absolutely amazing. We're working in partnership with Staffordshire Wildlife Trust now on that particular area, and they look after the maintenance, they look after the management in partnership with the district council. Absolutely fantastic. There was a group of school children there yesterday enjoying the fresh air, learning about the beautiful natural location of Ladridge, and it ticks all the boxes, doesn't it? You don't need to be a member of a golf club or a football club or a cricket club to gain the necessary fitness. Just go out and enjoy the beautiful green spaces and the fresh air. So it ticks the physical health important box, doesn't it? It ticks the mental health requirement. There's nothing better for the mind to get out and enjoy the fresh air. And it also, you're right, Councillor White, very much ticks the local economy box through tourism across the county. But I think also, and importantly, it ticks off the massive environment box, doesn't it, and the protection of our beautiful countryside. So a great report, which I warmly welcome, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor DeVille. I'm intrigued by the idea that being a member of a golf club improves your fitness, because I think the 19th hole may well be undermining some of those efforts, but does it? Excellent. Councillor Wilson, you've heard people's comments. If you could sum up and give us the recommendation, please.
Thank you very much for all those comments, and I will take them back to my team. I think the three very important things to remember here are, education for our future generations, the health and well-being of our residents, as we saw through COVID. Countryside parks and walkways were never more as important as they were then. And obviously the health benefits to all of us as well. So thank you very much, and I won't go any further because I think it's all been said. But I therefore recommend to Cabinet, that Cabinet considers and supports the proposed approach for management of the countryside estate and the associated delivery plan. Thank you.
You've heard the recommendations. All those in favour?
Agreed.
That is unanimous. Moving forward then to agenda items number 11 and 12. We have our excellent local democracy reporter with us today, Kerry Ashdown, and I don't think for Kerry there can be a more exciting phase in her life than listening to the framework agreements for furniture and the framework agreements for tarmac. Kerry, this must be a moment of triumph for you to be here, present now, as we take this through Cabinet, so brace yourself. Councillor DeVille, agenda item 11.
Very many thanks, Leader. And Kerry, pen at the ready, please. Chairman, of course, these framework agreements have never been more important. During the times of rising prices, continued cost of living pressures, this work is absolutely essential to enable us to continue to provide best value for our taxpayers. Current framework for the purchase of furniture has been live since July 2020. Needs refreshing, with an emphasis on achieving better value and an emphasis on buying improved quality and specification. So it's all out best value and best service and best equipment for the best price. So the key objectives are best value, best quality, and we're also, Chairman, dealing with a considerable amount of money. This project looks at the expenditure of £5 million, including full fit-outs, Chairman, of up to 8 new primary and secondary schools. So really important, and the three key areas of expenditure within the agreement are office equipment, educational furniture and library furniture. I'm delighted, colleagues, that partners are getting on board and are showing an appetite to purchase into this agreement. Partners from Stafford Borough Council, partners from Cannock Chase District Council and partners from South Staffordshire Council. So we also get the added benefit of economies of scale. Tenderers will be asked to provide an agreed schedule of rates for various items of equipment. So there's that element of sharpening people's pencils up, Leader. And there'll be an ongoing sampling of quality to ensure that not only are we purchasing best value, we're purchasing best quality as well. Really importantly, the tendering process provides an opportunity for local companies to tender for this work, and I sincerely hope that local companies do tender for this work, and the successful suppliers will be appointed to provide service and supply between July 2023 to June 2025, with a possible extension based on quality to June 2027. So there's a certain continuity around this as well. Also, indirectly, but certainly enhancing the local economy. We did a trawl of the percentage of local suppliers who carry out routine maintenance work on our buildings. and it was fantastic. It was almost 100% local businesses in Stoke-on-Trent and Staffordshire that conduct the work. I'm sure you'll have many questions which I'll field, Chairman, and afterwards I'll read the recommendations, if I may.
When there's a report as exciting as this one, Councillor DeVille, you'd expect Councillor White, Councillor Tagg and Councillor Sutton to jump on board, and they have. They have. So we'll start with Councillor White, then to Councillor Tagg.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Leader, and thank you very much, Councillor DeVille. I think it's entirely fitting that you bring a report on furniture procurement to a cabinet. Let me get that one in before anybody else does. But there, thank you for the applause. It's really important business, and the two items that we've got here, the furniture. We spend a lot of money on furniture, and I think the really important thing for anybody who uses our facilities, if you go into our libraries, you go into our schools, the construction of many of which I was happy to be responsible for when I was the education portfolio holder, so I saw a lot of it. It's good quality stuff. We make sure that people who use our services are not doing so in a threadbare way. It's good quality, but it's important that we manage the cost of that, and that we procure from local suppliers wherever possible, whilst doing so with best value. And regarding the procurement of tarmac, we are serious about improving the condition of our roads. Oh, sorry, I thought they were being taken together. Well, I'll make the point now so I don't make it later. It's important business, significant cost, but mustn't be at the cost of quality. I would just ask you to comment on that cost versus quality balance, because I sort of seen and felt it in our various premises, but it would be useful just to hear about that briefly. But thank you for this report.
Thank you, Leader. Seeing as this is a report about furniture, I'm glad that Councillor DeVille's delivery of this wasn't wooden. But on a serious note, I really welcome in the framework the commitment to recycling and reuse of furniture, and also in new furniture that we have this recyclable materials included in that, and that's really key. Too often we see the churn of office furniture, particularly, that could be reused either within the authority or sold on outside of the authority. So I really welcome that key, and that is a climate change implication that we cut down on the use of new materials with the use of recyclable materials. So we'll endorse this report.
Wow, beat that, Councillor Sutton, and then Councillor Parry wants to come in as well.
No, I've got no puns. I must admit that I'm going to use the point that I was going to raise has been raised a little bit, and that's around local suppliers. I wanted to ask about that, but that question's already been asked. And I just wanted some reassurance, perhaps from Cabinet member, that it won't be too bureaucratic, this process, and I think particularly around when we need a sort of one-off piece of furniture, that it's not that complicated and time consuming, because there's always been a general feeling out there about the public sector, wasting money, only being able to go to one supplier that where their costs are really high. Thank you, Leader.
And Councillor Parry.
I wonder if I could table an amendment, because I don't think the cabinet member has a leg to stand on. I have no other comment.
Well, that is the icing on the cake, really. Thank you for that. I think the comments highlight the importance of this work, Councillor DeVille. You do spend a vast amount of money on furniture, and it's important that we have proper governance in place, proper procurement in place. We do go for recycled furniture where we can, and that we use local businesses. And I think the points you made during the presentation of your report highlighted the fact that you're on this, and that you're making sure that as many local businesses in Staffordshire, to Councillor White's point in his oral report earlier, benefit from this. So if you could just sum up for us and ignore the quips and the...
Well, I can't ignore that, Leader, because Councillor Parry totally stole my thunder, because I was going to table the recommendations, which I will do, Chairman. However, just 3 points that if I may address. I think this addresses the 3 questions that I received, Chairman. three key objectives are to wherever possible, to involve local supply, local manufacturers, local companies. Quality versus cost benefits is absolutely paramount, Deputy Leader, in all of the objectives with regard to all of the frameworks. Best quality, very best value. And Councillor Sutton, absolutely, the frameworks that I bring to Cabinet do remove a ream of bureaucracy from decision making and make the decision making on purchase and procurement much more simple, much quicker, and a much more common sense approach. If I may then, Chairman, read the recommendations. I recommend today that Cabinet firstly agrees to officers undertaking a procurement exercise in line with the Public Contract Regulations 2015, the regulations for the framework agreement for the provision of office, educational and library furniture. B, that we approve that following completion of the procurement process, the successful suppliers be appointed to the framework agreement for the period of 1st of July 2023 to the 30th of June 2025, and that dependent on the quality of their delivery, that one or both of the 12-month service extensions be implemented to a final contract end date of the 30th of June 2027. And finally, Chairman, that we note that any contractual agreements in terms of the framework agreement and subsequent call-offs will be approved in accordance with the Council's procurement regulations.
You've heard recommendations. All in favour? Agreed. Agreed. It's unanimous. Straight on then to framework agreement for tarmac. Councillor Deville.
Yeah, I'm going to be very brief, Chairman. Current framework is due to expire in May 23. It's been live since June 19, so now's the time to take a look at this agreement again to make improvements as necessary. And again, we're looking at a considerable amount of money, and total procurement will be up to £6.5 million spent on playgrounds, on playground surfaces, on car parks, on sports courts, on pedestrian walkways, etc. And again, Chairman, I'm pleased that partners have again shown interest in using this framework when it becomes live. And again, Cannock Chase, South Staffs Council, Keele University, interestingly, and Stafford Borough Council wish to join in and again provide. The framework provides economies of scale. It's envisaged that 3 providers will be appointed, and again, the tender process provides massive opportunity for local companies to tender, and I sincerely hope again that this happens. So the framework again enables us to achieve best value, whilst at the same time satisfies fairly complex legal procurement requirements. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Before I bring in Councillor Williams, I would ask that you ensure that the innovation processes in the procurement of tarmac do continue. If we think about the sort of surfaces that were on playgrounds when we were kids, basically just tarmac or cinder or whatever, and now you have the rubberized bouncy material. In fact, you can see probably where I split my skull open falling off a swing when I was 8. You wouldn't have done that on modern materials if you fell off the swing at that age. Yeah, it has had an effect, Councillor Tagg, if you're wondering. But there are ways of using recycled materials. There are ways of making sure that we have materials that allow vehicles to run more efficiently over the surfaces. And I would ask the procurement team to make sure that we are constantly evolving the sorts of materials that we procure, so that one, they're environmentally more friendly, because it is quite an environmentally heavy area, for want of a better description. 2, that we're considering recycled materials. And 3, we're using materials that make vehicles run efficiently over them, or allow vehicles to run efficiently over them. Councillor Williams.
Thank you, Leader, and I'd like to thank Councillor Deville for bringing this quite sticky type of thing. Obviously, she's paving the way to our road to success, and the way that we deliver highways. We are, as you can say, we are chipping away at what we can continue to do for our services. But as part of that, I have to say that the use of the lab that we have here in Staffordshire has been really paramount to ensure that we can deliver the right type of material, and we test that on a regular basis, and we now do it for several areas, and I think it's a great way of ensuring that we have when we buy this material, that it's the right good enough quality for what we're putting on our roads and on our pavements and on our playgrounds. So I really do appreciate this coming forward, and it is going to be crucial to what we're trying to deliver as a cabinet, but also the fact, like you say, we're looking at different methods of construction and maybe reuse as well. So there is a lot going on, and if we can reduce whatever we have to spend on this, or if it means we can extend what we can do with it at the right quality, then I'm all for it. Thank you.
Councillor DeVille, if you could just come back and then read the recommendations, please.
Yeah, and Leader, I thank you for your comments and Mr Williams for his comments. And you're right. I think our paramount considerations are for reusable, recyclable materials, and indeed environmentally friendly materials. And we've said on many, many occasions, haven't we, Chairman, that care of our beautiful environment is and must be part of our day jobs, and I think we all agree that it absolutely is. If I can move to the recommendations then, Chairman, I recommend today that Cabinet approves and agrees to officers undertaking a procurement exercise in compliance with the requirements of the Public Contract Regulations 2015 for the framework agreement for the supply, installation, repairs and maintenance of tar, macadam and other surfaces. That we approve that following the procurement process, the successful suppliers will be appointed to the framework agreement for the period 1st of June 2023 through to the 31st of May 2027. And finally, Chairman, that we note that any contractual agreements in terms of the framework agreement and subsequent call-offs will be approved in accordance with the Council's procurement regulations. Thank you, colleagues.
Thank you, Councillor DeVille. You've heard the recommendations. All in favour? Right.
Agreed.
Just pause for a second. Just needed to clarify what was and what was not in part two. Apologies. So moving on then to agenda item number 13, which is decisions made by Cabinet members under delegated authority. First of all, by the Cabinet Member for Health and Care in approving the consultation with clients, staff, trade unions regarding the refurbishment of the Brackenbury site and subsequent relocation of the Newcastle Adult Learning Disability Day services. Second, the Cabinet Member for Environment, Infrastructure and Climate Change in approving the decision to hold a public consultation on the introduction of a van permitting system and controls for commercial trade waste at household waste recycling centres. Councillor Tagg, I'm just going to ask you to make a couple of comments on that, if I may, because I think it's been quite an important issue that you've been working on for some time. Councillor Tagg.
Thank you, Leader. Yes, the consultation began on the 5th of December and runs for 7 weeks until the 22nd of January. And that is to ask residents' views on a permitting system for large vans and commercial vans. Obviously, since we've taken over the waste recycling sites, we want them to be primarily used by the residents of Staffordshire, and also the waste that's generated by residents of Staffordshire is our responsibility, not that waste that comes from outside of the county. So there's a number of proposals which we're asking residents on. The reason we've done it over this period, actually, it seems counterintuitive to do a consultation over Christmas and New Year, but that is when we get a lot of people coming to our sites over particularly between the Christmas and New Year period, and they'll be able to do the survey and interact with the consultation actually on the site. And also we have a website survey that's on the council's website, staffordshire.gov.uk/recycle. So I urge all residents of the county to have a look at this proposals and possibly support them, so that we can have obviously a Staffordshire focused service, and also it will also cut down on our waste and carbon emissions by obviously only having waste generated in the county rather than from outside. Thank you.
Thank you. And the other delegated decision was from the Cabinet Member for Health and Care in approving the decision to award a contract for the integrated lifestyle service to Everyone Health following a competitive tender process. Was there anything you wanted to just say on that? No?
Not really, Chairman. It's Everyone Health provides the service. This is a new contract, but it will focus very much on outcomes, not just activity, to make sure that the investment actually delivers the benefits, particularly in terms of obesity.
Thank you. Moving forward to agenda item 14, this is the forward plan of key decisions. In January 2023, the following items in public: the Staffordshire Sustainability Board Communications Plan 2023, brought to you by the Cabinet Member for Infrastructure and Climate Change, Councillor Tagg. Staffordshire County Council's electric vehicle charging infrastructure, brought to you by the Cabinet Member for Highways and Transport, Councillor Williams. Future Highways Delivery Model, brought to you by the Cabinet Member for Highways and Transport, Councillor Williams. Future Social Care Workforce Strategy, brought to you by the Cabinet Member for Health and Care, Councillor Jessel. Medium-Term Financial Strategy 23-28, brought to you by the Cabinet Member for Finance and Resources, Councillor Parry. Moving forward to February and in public. Diversity and Inclusion Progress Update, brought to you by the Leader of the Council, myself. Empowering Our Communities, brought to you by the Cabinet Member for Communities and Culture, Councillor Wilson. Integrated Performance Report Quarter 3, brought to you by the Cabinet Member for Finance and Resources, Councillor Parry, and myself. Staffordshire County Council Local Flood Risk Management Strategy, brought to you by the Cabinet Member for Environment, Infrastructure and Climate Change, Councillor Tagg. Moving forward to March in public, Our People Strategy 2023 and beyond, brought to you by myself. Capital Programme for Schools 23 to 24, brought to you by the Cabinet Member for Education and Send, Councillor Price. House Project, brought to you by the Cabinet Member for Children and Young People, Councillor Sutton. Highways and Transport Capital Programme 23-24, brought to you by the Cabinet Member for Highways and Transport, Councillor Williams. That concludes the forward plan of key decisions. I move now to agenda item number 15, which is the exclusion of the public. That the public be excluded from the meeting for the following items of business which involve the likely disclosure of exempt information as defined in the paragraphs of Part 1 of Schedule 12A as amended of the Local Government Act 1972 indicated below. I so move.